A great way to get out of the summer slump, just that feeling right now that a lot of us feel this time of year. I know I do every year. To get out of that feeling and get into a great frame of mind in the garden is just to look around and tear out anything that is old, diseased, dead, tired looking, not producing, anything that makes you feel, get rid of it. But don't stop there. Plant something else. It is almost, and some places it is, fall gardening season. Now, if you've never grown a fall garden, I highly, highly recommend it because there's almost no pests, no heat, none of the issues that get us down during the summer. I'm telling you, if you haven't done it before, make this the year you at least do something, just a little bit. Now, in this video, I'm going to include 10 crops for any climate right now, almost any. Some of you guys way up north, I know there's it basically goes from summer into winter. But for the rest of us, I'm going to give you those 10 crops that you can plant right now. So what you have to do to figure out if this video is for you, and like I said, it's for most people, is you got to figure out your frost date. I'm going to leave a link down below for you to be able to figure your first frost date. That's the average in your area, the date where you're going to get your first frost. And so once you find that number, you look at the seed packet, or I'm going to tell you what these crops need, and you count from that frost date back to see if you have enough time. The great thing is about cool season crops is most of them can take quite a bit of frost as long as there's no freezes. And so you've got a much bigger window, more flexibility than you do in summer. If you look and you're maybe just shy of the time it takes, like I said, there's a grace period because most of these crops are frost hardy, but you can also trim about 3 weeks off of that time by planting garden center transplants versus seeds. Now, after all 10 of these choices, you stick around, I'm going to give you a bonus for those of you who really don't have harsh winters. Maybe you get a lot of frost, but no freezes. I'm going to give you a special choice just for you guys. Now, the first one here isn't necessarily for you guys that I just mentioned, or me. First choice is garlic. Now, I don't plant my garlic being in zone 9B, 10A until October or November. But if you're not in zones 9 or 10, you can go ahead and get your garlic in the ground right now. As long as you get garlic in the ground before the ground freezes, you're good to go. And I get the question all the time. I planted my garlic in the ground. It's up, it's green, and then I had my first frost or freeze. Is it still good? Yes, it's good. So wherever you are, if you have a cold winter, get it in the ground now. It won't matter, and it will be great come springtime. Again, for zones 9 and 10, we're going to wait a month or two to plant our garlic. Now, for those of you in 9 or 10, another myth that's out there for us is that you have to put your garlic bulbs in the fridge for several weeks to mimic the chill of winter that they would get normally. And if you don't do that, your garlic is not going to clove. It's just going to be one big bulb. I will put a link down below to a video I did a few years ago where I did it both ways. And for me, the ones that I did not put in the fridge actually did way better than the ones that I did. So I haven't chilled them since. All right, number 2 on the list is spinach. It's a really popular green. It's very fast growing. In fact, it only takes 30 days from seed to harvest, especially planted right now when it's still a little warm outside. Spinach is also a very frost hardy crop. So even if you have frost coming in, low temperatures, it's still going to keep pushing right through that. If it's still hot where you live, you can plant it in the shade right now, and that is going to protect it from some of that heat. Spinach can take quite a bit of shade, and so a month from now, when the temperatures are down into like the 70, 75 range, where they like to start out, you're going to be that much more ahead. Number 3 is radishes. Radishes are a super, super quick crop. Seed to harvest in, believe this or not, 25 days. So almost anywhere right now that you plant them, you can get a harvest as long as the next month or so you don't have any freezes coming. Now, I don't love raw radishes. In fact, I hate them. Always have, ever since I was a kid, and my grandma made me try them. I hate them. However, I did learn that if you roast them, throw them in some fat, some butter, some bacon grease, and then roast them in the oven, they actually, all that zip, that heat, goes away, and they're kind of like a mushy, watery potato. I know that sounds gross, but they're better than it sounds. Number 4 is any of the Asian greens. Same rule with the spinach. Start them out in the shade if it's over 80 degrees where you're living right now. We're talking bok choy, pak choy, tat soy, any of the mustards, and mizuna. And mizuna is actually the most cold tolerant of all. It keeps on going right down to 25 degrees Fahrenheit. And most Asian greens, seed to harvest, they'll be ready in 6 weeks. Number 5 is peas. Now, peas can be planted by just about anyone right now. In the earliest winters, you may not get pea pods, but I got to tell you, pea shoots are almost just as delicious. And that's the end of the stems that will have like the new tender leaves, maybe a flower bud, maybe a little tendril. Snap those off the plant. They're great in stir fries, in salads. They're even great just to pop in your mouth in the garden. Not quite as sweet as peas, but they have that pea flavor. So even if you don't get the final harvest because your winter gets too cold too quick, I think you'll like those. Number 6 is bunching onions. It's one of those vegetables that is super easy to grow from kitchen scraps. Now, I know there's a lot of things out there on Instagram, Pinterest, Facebook, how to grow things from kitchen scraps. And most of them fall in the category of, no, that doesn't work, or why even bother? But onions, bunching onions, are one of those that actually do work. I planted these last spring from kitchen scraps, and they gave us green onions all spring and summer, and now they're actually growing bulbs that we can use as well. So if you save, when you're cutting up your green onions from the grocery store, just save the bottom couple of inches, the white part, a little bit of green, and some roots, plant it right in the ground, and within 2 weeks, you're going to be able to start harvesting green onions. Number 7 is kale. I hate it, but you may not, so I'm putting it in here. Any of the kales will work right through the cold season. They will even take frost, snow, but they're also heat tolerant. So if it's still hot where you live, you can still plant them right now. You can plant them in spring and grow them through summer. They're a very versatile type crop. I just wish they weren't so nasty. But if you do like it, maybe try scarlet kale. Get some color in your diet, which is hard to do in the winter. And you can be harvesting kale, seed to harvest, in about 50 days. Number 8 is cilantro. Seed to harvest in 40 days. If you love cilantro, you're definitely going to want to plant this. If you plant it in warmer weather, like right now, it could bolt. So maybe get some garden center transplants, grow them on a bit, plant some seeds around them at the same time. So as the garden center transplants are getting ready to bolt, you can give them a quick harvest. You're going to have the next batch coming up from seed, and it will grow all the way through the winter in mild climates, but you can still harvest it right up to frost. Frost will kill cilantro though. 9, going right along with cilantro in the herb category, are chives. One of my favorites. Now, chives are super fast to grow, and you can almost start harvesting them when they're 3 or 4 inches tall. But the good thing about chives is, no matter when you plant them, they are perennial. So just like garlic, even if you don't get a crop right now, you might have time for that. But in the coldest climates, they will come back again full force in the springtime, so you can start harvesting then. And not only are they great to eat, but in late spring, early summer, they put on a great show with a bunch of flowers, which are also edible. If you have carrot fly that decimates your carrots, plant a hedge of chives around your carrot bed, and the smell of the chives will fool the carrot fly because they find carrot by scent, and that's going to mask the scent of the carrots. So you're going to have a much better time growing carrots if you add some chives to that bed. All right, so number 10 is any of the leaf lettuces. Possibly head lettuces, but those do take a little bit longer, so look at the packages. But for most leaf lettuces, you can start harvesting when they're 4 to 5 inches tall, which could be 30 to 45 days from now. You can pull the leaves off in a cut and come again way, so pull the outer leaves off. The inner leaves keep producing, and you can just keep pulling them as they produce, or you can cut them right off about an inch above the ground, use that, and they're going to start putting out again. And you can keep harvesting until the frost comes and kills your lettuce, or you can extend the season by putting a floating row cover, some fleece, some plastic over the bed. That's going to give you up to a month or even more longer. All right, so here's the bonus. If you live in zones 9, 10, maybe 11, basically where you get little to no frost, Some frost is okay, but that would be planting your brassicas now or maybe next month. Brassicas like cabbage, cauliflower, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, they take a long time to grow. And so those of us who are fortunate enough to not have deep freeze winters, we can start them right now. They'll grow all winter and we'll be harvesting in the spring. Now, if you aren't living in a no freeze zone, you'd plant those in the spring and then they'd be ready sometime midsummer. A great twofer is actually planting your brassicas and then planting lettuce around them. You can tuck in lettuce wherever. And there's a lot of real estate left under brassicas because they grow from a small place, but the plant is huge. And lettuces and spinach can take the shade of those plants. So you can save space by planting two things in one bed. All right, make sure you're subscribed because over the next several weeks and months, I'm going to take you through the entire process of the fall garden, from planning it out, sowing the seeds, and then the maintenance all the way through the season. If you want to get a jump start on the planning part, click this video right here that I did last year on how to plan out your fall garden. I'll see you next time.